Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's April. We're in springtime. My name is Wendy Sachs, and I'm on the board of Plant Powered Metro New York. And this is our monthly series with our beloved Chef Carole. So, welcome to Cooking with Chef Carole. Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to achieve better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food, plant based approach to nutrition. We offer evidence based education, resources, and a grassroots network of support to create community and inspire change. Together with leaders and organizers and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of a whole food, plant based diet, empower individuals to make their own lifestyle adjustments, as well as lead projects that spark changes in food policy, food practice, and food culture. So, welcome to everyone. And also, welcome to those of you who are watching the replay. All kinds of vegetables are in the farmers markets, at least right here in New York, particularly all the green vegetables. And spring definitely has sprung in the Northeast. As usual, we encourage you to buy regenerative and organic vegetables. But any vegetable is probably better than no vegetables at all. So support your local CSA, support organic, and if you can, support regenerative agriculture. Please let us know where you're from in the chat. Also, please ask any questions in the chat. Carole and I usually allow time during her demo for questions, but otherwise we try to get everything at the end. And if there's time. And I know today we have a particularly tight show, so hopefully we'll get to your questions. And let's see, if you're enjoying the presentation, please press like in Facebook and YouTube. Very quick announcements for Plant Powered Metro. April 18th, we have an incredible program in Harlem, actually, free 4-part series. It's a Food for Life program that is about the power of food for new and expectant parents. So women who are pregnant, they're doulas, they're caregivers. It's an amazing program. I'll speak more about it at the end. We have a program April 20th, Eating for Skin Health and Anti-Aging. And then my favorite event, honestly, or one of my favorites for Earth Day, which kind of got me into the whole movement. We have a program called Urban Meets Rural, an Earth Day Summit at Ethos Farm. It's an in-person event in New Jersey, and I highly recommend if you're in the New York area, either coming or we'll have a bus from New York City to take people out to New Jersey. But a couple of years ago, people from Washington drove up. So if you're anywhere around, please consider coming on April 23rd. Again, more info on the website. And then April 25th, we have a in-person event. It's our spring social at a vegan restaurant in New York called Caravan of Dreams. So without further ado, as they say, Carole, what's on the menu today?
Oh, hey, Wendy, and hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Sunday. And we are going to do sauces today. It's something I get asked about a lot, and I've had it in my mind to do sauces and dressings for quite some time. But I decided after speaking with a colleague of mine that she said I really get stuck on sauces. So we're going to make 5 sauces today, and I'm going to run through them, but they're all a little bit different. The first one we're going to do is we're going to make a mushroom gravy, and then we're going to make a barbecue sauce, and we're going to make a peanut sauce and a Thai curry sauce, and this wonderful sauce that I found in the minimalist baker called Liquid Gold that is absolutely delicious. So we're going to get started, and I just want to, tell you that I do think about dips and sauces and dressings kind of all as condiments that we have. And sauces usually are something that are obviously dipping. When we dip, it's like a hummus. And then sauces are more something that we immerse the food in. But some of these sauces actually could become very good dressings if you just thin them out a bit. So let's get started, and we'll go on talking about that. And these are things that you could have in your refrigerator already ready so that when it comes time to prepare a meal, whether it be a bean bowl or a salad or a pasta dish or a grain bowl, all sorts of things, almost every one of these sauces, you could put those things on those meals. So let's get started. I have a saute pan here warming up, and we are going to start with the mushroom sauce. And I'm going to make half of this recipe. This is a recipe that I actually found on the Center for Nutrition Studies, the T. Colin Campbell site. I found it at Thanksgiving time, which was appropriate because it is a mushroom gravy, and it's something that you would put on top of mashed potatoes, or maybe if you made a bean loaf or a nut loaf, and that I'll show you when we're presenting, that I did make a actual bean loaf. So we're going to start again because this recipe yields about 4 cups. So for me, having this recipe, I have frozen it before, and I just put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer and taken it out and thawed it out. It works perfect. So what we need to do is we have 8 ounces. The recipe calls for 1 pound, and 1 pound is 16 ounces. And we're going to use 8 ounces of mushrooms. And 8 ounces of mushrooms is one of those small containers. It can be cremini mushrooms. It can be white button mushrooms. It doesn't matter. So those are going to go into the pan right away. I slice them all, and they're going to go right into the pan. And they're going to start cooking, and we are going to saute them in just a little broth. And I have a jar of broth here, and I'm just going to put a teeny bit, just a little bit, not very much, okay? Not very much, because the mushrooms release their own juices. And I also have original recipe calls for 3 garlic cloves, and I did 2. Because I kind of like it a little bit garlicky. So we're going to put that garlic in right now. And then we are going to mix that garlic so it starts coating the mushrooms. And in the meantime, I didn't slice the shallot. A shallot is a kind of milder onion. It's not as strong as a white onion. This is kind of a big one. It came looking like this. They were kind of married together like little twins. And it calls for 2 large shallots. So I'm just going to, and it calls for diced small, but honestly, I'm just going to slice it because it really doesn't matter how the onion looks, whether it's sliced or diced. Why? Because it's all going into the blender, and it's all going to get mixed up anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now, one of the special things, there are 2 recipes today that I feel have kind of like secret internal ingredients, meaning that they're kind of, when we make the liquid gold, it has chickpeas inside, which I love that as a thickener. And this magic of this recipe is most of the time when you make any kind of gravy, you need to make a roux. And a normal roux would be with butter and flour, right? So in the past, when I don't have the butter, because we're not eating any butter, I would make a roux with just broth and flour. And it's really hard sometimes to get rid of that floury taste in a gravy sometimes. And sometimes I've used even cornstarch so that it's not tasting kind of like that floury taste on your tongue. So the great thing about this particular recipe is that it's thickened with a cauliflower puree. So that's pretty awesome that it's thickened that way. And I love that. And that's kind of the secret internal middle of the recipe. Now, this recipe is online, and I typed it up pretty much exactly the way it was. The online recipe in the instructions actually mentions rosemary, but in the ingredients it doesn't mention rosemary. So I just guessed that it's about a teaspoon of rosemary. So we're putting 3 different kinds of spices in. We're putting, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of sage, a half a teaspoon of thyme, and then again, it mentioned rosemary, and you can get rosemary dried already in a jar, but I always seem to have fresh rosemary. So in efforts to use it up, and also because I like fresh rosemary so very much, I'm just going to chop some up. And again, it doesn't have to be really small, because it's all going to get blended, and we're going to cook the mushrooms in these particular spices. So I just recommended about a teaspoon. So that's right there is about a teaspoon. So we're going to throw that in there with the mushrooms. And we're going to put our sage. And that is, the original recipe was a full teaspoon of each herb. And I'm doing half, half, half. So half, half, half of each. Thyme, sage, and rosemary. So that's going in there like that. And I'm just going to mix it up. And I've turned the burner up because what you ideally want is the mushrooms to really start to saute. And the best way to do that is to have them on a higher heat. If I run a gas flame, I would turn it almost way up because you want the juices to get sealed in. Oh, and Wendy, when I make just this part, I want to tell you, I could just like eat the whole pot of mushrooms. The fact that I get it to the blender and actually blend it up is amazing because look, it's something that you and I love so much, right?
Oh my God, absolutely, Carole. In fact, I mean, both of us are sort of mushroom crazy. I just saw an article that was done, a study that was done saying that they did a comparison. It was a very, very, very short study. So I don't know about how, the greater implications, but it had to do with eating meat and eating mushrooms, and for people who were trying to build muscle. And it turned out that the people who were eating the mushrooms had just as much muscle building as the people who were eating meat. And so, of course, I had to pile on even more muscle.
Oh my God. When I see mushrooms like this, I see them in the pot just like all these mushrooms.
I love
I
them.
just could eat just that. Just that would be my meal. Like I'd be so happy. And I can't tell you how fragrant it is, even though we use 2 dried herbs. We use the sage. And of course, the minute you put sage into a pot, it smells like Thanksgiving. But you don't have to limit your gravy making to Thanksgiving, right? And maybe we're ahead of ourselves. Maybe you and I are thinking of preparing ahead, and this will be something you could practice for the next Thanksgiving. But this is what this is looking like. It's super yummy. It's already getting brown. And one of the things, the recipe, it mentioned that you had to puree the cauliflower after you steamed it. But it never told you that you had to puree the whole thing. So I just added in the last step. So if you end up going to the website looking for this recipe because you lose the recipe or something, it doesn't say blend all the things together to make a sauce. But you have to blend everything together. So we did the rosemary. So the things that we could have, and it recommends in the full recipe a half a cup of white wine, which is something I'm not a wine drinker anymore. So I don't really have the wine in the house. But it says if you don't have the white wine, you could just use some lemon juice. So I actually have some lemon right here, and I'm just going to squeeze the lemon juice. And if you were to have the white wine, you would add it, and you would let the wine reduce just a little bit, okay? But we don't really need to let anything reduce because the lemon juice doesn't need to be reduced, okay? And I always save that lemon or lime because I clean my copper pots with that. So this is really cooking. Now, like I said, it has a little bit of a secret ingredient, and I'll go get that secret ingredient. And it's cauliflower. That's what's going to make this really super creamy. And then it says we need broth. The full recipe needs 2 cups. And then we need black pepper. And then we need 1 tablespoon. For the half recipe, we need 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast. Now, I know some people don't like nutritional yeast, and some people actually have a reaction towards it. And so if you, and we're doing 2 recipes today that have nutritional yeast. So if you can't have it, I don't really know of a replacement for that taste. So just omit it and I think you'll be just fine. So here's the ingredient that's going to make it super creamy, and it's the cauliflower. And I bought a really small cauliflower, and about a half of the small cauliflower would give me a cup and a half of of a cup and a half of cauliflower will be the right exact amount that I need. Now this is a little more than I need. I'll just show you. And I already steamed it. And I want you to know when I steamed it, I put it in a basket and I steamed it with a little water underneath. And I never throw that water away. I just ended up throwing that water into the jar that I had broth. So I just want you to know that all that water has, vegetable water is good. So here, I'm just going to measure a cup and a half. This is, again, already cooked. So we're just, and the cauliflower part does not have to be exact. I'm going to save a little bit of this for later on when we are going to make a dish later on. So this is cooking and it's pretty done actually. And it's just ready for the blender now. Now it is starting to stick to this pan a little bit. So by adding a little bit of broth, just the littlest amount, again, you never want it to be drowning. The minute you add the broth is the minute everything just loosens up and any residue that is stuck to the bottom of the pan is free. It's like amazing how that works. It's like, I don't know, still can't get over, Wendy, sometimes, I think about the days of using olive oil and it's so long ago for me now, but it's so incredible how good. So look at, this is what this looks like.
Amazing.
Okay? Now that's a meal in itself, right? We all know that just eating mushrooms and cauliflower with a bunch of spices could be the meal. But we're trying to make a sauce, okay? So I'm going to lower this, and I'm going to get the Vitamix. And you could use any blender you want. You could use a food processor, but because we're doing, it's going to be quite a bit of liquid, right? I just want to make sure that I use more of a blender instead of the food processor. Okay, so this is all going in here. And I want to tell you that when I make this, I've made this a lot of times now since Thanksgiving, and there are times that I just want to eat it almost as a soup. And it would still work as a soup just as much as it works as a gravy. Okay, so I just want to make that kind of disclaimer that we've got such a good base started here. And often when I make mushroom soup, I use potato to thicken it up, and we're using the cauliflower. And then it says we need 1 whole cup of what do you call it, broth. So let me just get a measuring cup out to measure that out. Okay, and we're going to measure 1 cup. And sometimes we need more. Now I have thinned this sometimes after I blended it with a little plant-based milk, which makes it a little richer. I like to use like an almond milk. Let's get the lid, and I'm just going to blend this right this minute. That's very thick, and this is when I think about it being soup. So I'm going to add a little more broth, just a very little bit, not a lot. And of course, we want to add some black pepper. And I like to add the fresh black pepper. So I'm going to do that as well right now while it's blending. Okay, so I'm just doing that back here. Just going to add the fresh black pepper. And last time we talked about black pepper, I think, Wendy, that I have a nice mixture of black pepper in this little hand cranked pepper machine. I have white and red and black and sometimes green. But you can buy a mixture of pepper, and it's really nice to have all those different peppers. So that is it. that's our sauce right there. Do you see? Can you see it's in the blender? And I'm just going to pour it. I'm going to actually just pour it into this bowl. Okay. And you can see how it's a beautiful gravy. Now, at this point, you could put it, there's no reason to put it back into the pan. Okay. You don't have to put it back in. We're not needing to reduce anything. We have no wine in here. And usually I taste something before I go putting it into a jar container. The bowl's here and it's just very convenient. And at this point, if you felt like it was still too thick, you could definitely add any kind of oat milk, almond milk, or soy milk, any kind of plant-based milk. Honestly, if you found walnut milk or cashew milk, any of those rich milks would be delicious in here. And of course, we have to taste it. And later when we're ending, and I haven't put the nutritional yeast, I just realized. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it's so yummy already that it's good to know that it's yummy already without the nutritional yeast. But the nutritional yeast adds just a little bit of a, not so much a cheesy, that's usually why you use nutritional yeast. But the nutritional yeast just adds kind of like a deeper dimension of the sauce. And of course, I would put this normally in a jar and I would just leave it in the refrigerator. But I've had some open the refrigerator. So what I'm going to do after the demo is I'm going to carefully pour it into a Ziploc bag after it's totally cool. And then I'm going to just put it in the freezer. And it can just be in there until I'm ready to serve it. Although I did make mashed potatoes today, so I'm going to use a little bit of it. And if you needed to adjust the seasoning, I'm just going to taste it. It's perfect. It's absolutely delicious. And again, you could make it into a soup if you wanted. I actually have a really good mushroom soup recipe, but it's so delicious that you don't have to limit yourself to using it just for gravy. And of course, we could put, if we were putting this in a serving bowl, right, we could just put a little piece of rosemary on top like that for now. So it's going to stay like this. We're going to just keep this over here. And does anyone have, this is a time for just anyone having questions.
There's a question about what pot are you using to cook the mushrooms in?
I am using like a non-stick pan, Wendy, like your green pan that you have, kind of just a ceramic pan. I talk about the Ozeri pan that I love so much, but my Ozeri pan is 7 inches. This brand is Wusthof, of the same brand as, Zweiling. It's the same as the people that made knives. It's a good ceramic pan, but there's also there's the scan pan, the green pan. You have the scan pan, but there's the green pan that I know people like, but it's just a ceramic pan.
Got it. And then there's another question, which I think you're heading towards, which is, what would you add the gravy to? I know you mentioned mashed potatoes, but tell us more.
I'm going to show you that I made a big bowl. Well, for me, it's a big bowl because I could possibly eat them all at one moment, but I'm not going to. But I made a big bowl of mashed potatoes. Okay. And I made mashed potatoes. If anyone wants to go back to a demo in 2020, we can provide a link in the chat, but I did show everyone how to make mashed potatoes, because maybe if you're new to whole plant-based food, you never made mashed potatoes before. So there's a link if you want. And then I also made a little, you can make a nut loaf or a bean loaf or rice loaf or grain loaf, whatever you want to call it, but I made a small loaf. So this is still it's a little warm. I'm not sure I'm ready to cut it yet, but these are the 2 things that are going to go with the gravy.
Gorgeous. And that does look amazing. And I'm always surprised how easy that is. We do tend to think we need the flour and everything else, but that looked so easy to just whip up.
It's super easy and super delicious. And like I said, you could stretch it out, you're going to see that every sauce we make could be stretched or thinned out to 1, your own desires, and 2, you could make this into a soup if you wanted. You know, I would leave some whole mushrooms. I maybe would add a little sherry, a little vinegar. You know, I would doctor up a little bit, but it is a good base
Yeah.
for the. And as we just discussed, you and I could eat it before we even puree it.
Yeah. Right. And the person who was asking said, great idea about the loaf. Thanks for sharing. And let's see, another person is saying, since I don't eat mushrooms,
Mm.
oh, any other suggestion besides
Oh,
mushrooms to make a sauce? That's, I mean, this is a mushroom sauce, and you're going to get about 4 other sauces. But
yes.
any other thoughts on that, Carol?
Well, I guess not at the moment. Not, I'd have to think about it. I mean, this is like you said, a specific mushrooms gravy. So it's based on mushrooms, and I don't know. Like I can only say if you're not allergic or you don't get sick, and it's just an adverse taste thing that you don't like mushrooms. I would try to learn to like mushrooms. That's my opinion.
There will be other sauces we're going to learn tonight. I mean, so there's at least 3 or 4 other sauces coming your way, Desiree. So hang in there, and if you don't like mushrooms, then don't make a mushroom gravy.
And maybe you could use, you know, I mean, walnuts are really close. So I mean, there's sometimes I've made walnuts and mixed green beans together to
Yep.
make kind of a cool thing. But I'd have to. It won't be this sauce.
Yeah, that's a great idea, like a walnut sauce. Cool.
Yeah, kind of like a walnut with, and you could grind green beans.
Mhm.
Those kind of two things go together, you
Mhm.
know. And it can be kind of it kind of could be a really good flavor.
Yep.
That's my only thoughts on that right away. And I'm sorry, Desiree, that we're making another thing with mushrooms, but the other 3 sauces at the end have no mushrooms. I'm a mushroom person, and we are gonna have barbecue mushrooms next.
She asked about artichokes.
You could it'd be an artichoke sauce, sure. I mean, there's a million kinds of sauces, is all I can say. We could be at this all day making sauces.
Good questions, Desiree. Thank you.
Maybe other people can contribute in the chat. Is my also people have ideas sometimes, and I'm very much concentrating on what we're doing next. So, are we ready to go to the next thing?
We're ready.
Okay, so the next thing, and maybe if you have been in a Food for Life class with me or any of our other instructors, is something that I really love, and I make it all the time. I have this jar of barbecue sauce in my refrigerator all the time. Why? Because it asks us to put it on portobello mushrooms, which are a very meaty kind of steak-like mushroom. But if you don't want to put it on mushrooms, I have the idea, Desiree, you could put the same sauce on baked potatoes or French fries or any kind of white bean, because it is so delicious, okay? And it's really easy to have it in your refrigerator. And I realize I want to get something out of the freezer that I portioned out, and it's just sitting right here on the top. And I'm going to, so this is a Food for Life recipe. You probably can find it on the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Not all the recipes we make in our classes are on their website, but you'll learn how to make this very simple barbecue sauce. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually make the sauce. And I'm going to make it in the NutriBullet, and I think we can make it in here. I have lots of different size cups, and I think it will be okay to make in here. We'll see. But we need to start measuring things out, and it's a really quick one. Okay, so, and I have the pan on warm, and we need a half a cup of broth. Okay, and there are many times I want you to know that I have no broth in the house. No broth, no stock, no nothing. And I just use water. And using water is just fine. Okay, so it's just that this gives it much more flavor. So we're doing a half a cup right now, okay, a half a cup of broth going into here. And then we need 1/4 of a cup of, oh, you know what I just realized? I want to do just a quarter because I have a whole jar in the refrigerator. So I'm going to do a little less. So I'm doing a 1/4 cup. And then I'm going to, the original recipe is a 1/4 cup of apple juice concentrate. And what does that mean? It's that frozen juice, but you want to look for the frozen juice that says unsweetened. It's just apples, apple juice concentrate, but it has no added sugar. Okay, so I have that in from the freezer. It's frozen, and it can literally go right from the freezer. I measured it out, and like I said, we're going to make a half. So originally, quarter cup is the original recipe. I'm doing 2 tablespoons. And then it says we need to have a half a cup of roasted red peppers. Now, often I have roasted peppers in a jar that I have bought from the grocery store. They're pretty, they're not too expensive, and you buy the kind that are not in oil. They're just in a brine. But I have a big jar that I roasted myself. I bought a bunch of red peppers on sale, and I roasted this jar was full at one time. And we're going to need, it says we need a half a cup, but technically, if we're having something, we need a quarter cup. So I've been having these roasted red peppers in the refrigerator, which is pretty awesome to have. Why? Because I've been throwing them on everything, throwing them in a salad. I've been snacking on them. So it's super great to just have them in the fridge. Whether you make them and roast them yourself or you buy them just in a jar, there's really no real difference. And look at that. I measured it perfectly, and this is a quarter cup is going right into there. I'm just going to close up this jar, and ultimately that will go back in the refrigerator. And those are sitting in their own juices, in case you're wondering what the juice is. They're just when you roast them and then you peel their skins off, they make a really nice juice of their own. Then we're going to put in we're going to put in a half a tablespoon of soy sauce. And I'm just making sure that I'm doing this in the right order. And then we're going to put, I don't even know what this is. I measured it out. Oh, it's rice wine vinegar. And I'm not going to go into this in an elaborate way, but I want to just remind you, because I always take both out of my pantry. There is something called seasoned rice wine vinegar and rice wine vinegar. The regular rice wine vinegar has no added sugars in it, okay? So it's 0 sugar. And seasoned rice wine vinegar adds a little bit of sugar for the flavoring. So this recipe calls for the seasoned, but I just use the regular rice wine vinegar. Why? Because the apple juice concentrate is so sweet on its own that I find that you can get away with the rice wine vinegar just as is. Okay, and then we need to have chili powder. There are a couple spices that are going in here. So there's going to be 1 teaspoon of chili powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, and then a little bit, about 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper. So those spices are just going right in here. Okay, and then the last thing that we missed is we need to have a 1/4 cup of broth. And I did that, and look at that. I had measured it, and I didn't even realize it. So I'm putting it right back into my jar. I'm going to move all this. And then we just need to blend this up, and the sauce is done. Now, the sauce is going to be kind of runny. You're going to see, let me see. We have the bottom of the NutriBullet right close by. And I'm going to blend it right here. So this is a teeny, for my NutriBullet, I have several little plastic containers. So this ends up turning upside down. So you always want to have this tight. And then I'm going to blend it right here in a second. Okay, so this is the barbecue sauce, and it is super runny. You're gonna say, that's not the barbecue sauce that I'm familiar with when I take it right out of the jar and it's really thick. But this sauce kind of reduces, and when we cook the mushrooms, or you cook the white beans, or you pour it over your lovely potatoes, it all is gonna be delicious, okay? So I have the portobello mushrooms, and I left them whole so that you could see how big they are. These are kind of medium size. They could be small baby portobellos or they could be large portobellos. And they always come with a stem. So I always take the stem off. I just remove that. Okay, and I'm going to put that there. And I realized while I was talking to Wendy earlier that I got obsessed with cleaning, and I cleaned them all while I was talking to her. But I just want to show you, I'll show you here on this little towel, that the insides have these big dark gills, okay? You see how black that is? These gills were inside here, and you need to just take a spoon and clean out the portobello so that the gills all come out, because if you keep them in, it can make your dish a little black. It's not bad to eat the gills. It's just that if you want a dish to not be kind of darkened by the gills, you want to remove them. Okay, does that make, I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. And I already removed them. And then what I'm going to do is cut these so that they're about a ½ inch thick. Okay, and they're going to be big and chunky. It's the nicest way to eat the portobellos. Like I said, they're kind of meaty tasting. It's been a really long time since I've eaten meat, many years, over 30. But I do remember when I was transitioning or gave up meat a long time ago, that portobello mushrooms were the most satisfying to me because they are very meaty tasting. So usually what I do is I put the skillet. Now you could do this in a pan in the oven at 400 degrees if you want, but so that you don't have to turn the oven on. It's just nice to cook them in the skillet. So I just lay all these portobello mushrooms in the pan. I'll do it quite in front of you so you kind of see that I'm just putting them so that they're on their side. Okay, they do kind of get all moved around eventually, but I'm just setting them so they look like this. Okay, so they look really nice and organized. And I have done this with several kinds of mushrooms because I don't always have the portobello. Sometimes I have one, but I have a lot of cremini or I have a lot of the other kind of mushroom. So sometimes I mix it up and just have all kinds of mushrooms. Okay, and then what you do is you're cooking this at like a medium heat, and then you pour on the sauce. Okay, now this is going to also be delicious, this sauce on rice. Okay, any kind of rice that you make, it will be delicious on. Whether it be brown rice or red rice or white rice, it will be delicious. And it's up to you how much you put, right? You can bathe them in, but you want the mushrooms to cook in the sauce, okay? And normally what I would do is I just get a little teeny jar, maybe a jar like this for now. And I do have a jar of this in the refrigerator already. So I won't add it to that jar because it's not good to mix old with new. If I just made it yesterday, yes, you could mix the two, but mine has been in there for a number of days. So I'll use the other jar first, and then I'll use the remaining sauce here. Okay, so this is what I have at the moment of this sauce, and it will just go in, and I always label it with a piece of tape saying that it's barbecue sauce and what date that I've made it. And then these are going to cook, and this is a perfect time, Wendy, to ask questions, if there are any.
You are so good to go. It's very engaging. So you're good to go. No questions.
And so this is what this is looking like. I just want you to see. And if you, I wish I could smell it and make it go all towards all of you. Just push the smell towards you.
It does look amazing. We actually do have a question. Sorry, Carole. Can you use this barbecue sauce as a marinade for tofu?
Oh my God, it's a great idea. Oh my goodness, whoever gets a star, they get a gold star for asking the best question ever. I love that idea. I've never done it, but it would be delicious. And I was going to say earlier that we could eat all of these sauces on tofu, really, when we make the rest of them. The next couple ones that we make are great on tofu, but this would be to die for with tofu.
I would agree.
And if you have a grill that you could put it onto, that would be even better. But Great.
I was thinking of grilled cauliflower because in the summertime, my brother will sometimes put a cauliflower steak on the, he'll slice the cauliflower, make cauliflower steak. But this would be such a good sauce to put over the cauliflower
Oh
too.
my gosh. And both ways, Wendy, the steak kind that you're talking about,
Yeah.
that, and also just the cut florets. You could toss them, don't they make like barbecue florets or something like
They
that?
do.
So this would be awesome for that.
Right. And
You see, the community always has good ideas.
great ideas. Desiree just popped in. It could probably be used to make a barbecue jackfruit.
Oh my God, that would be delicious with a taco, on a taco.
Correct. Great
So,
ideas.
anyway, you can see that the sauce thickens. I just want to show everyone that it thickens. Now, these mushrooms are nowhere near done, okay? They're not done. But I have to, as they cook, they release a little bit of their own juice. And if I needed to, I could put a little more sauce. Or I could add a teeny bit of just, sometimes I do this too. I just thin it out a little bit and I add a little broth. So that needs to cook for like another minute just while I wash up. I should have been washing while I was talking. Is there anything else, Wendy?
Sorry, I was muted. You are clear, go, Carole. We're on.
Okay, fantastic. Just give me a second because I just want to. I like cleaning up. It's really helpful to me in my mind to have things clean.
Absolutely. While Carole's cleaning, many of you who are already plant-based know that sauces are the key because it keeps the food interesting. You know this already. Those of you who are starting out, who are joining us, sauces are the key because there's only, I happen to love steamed broccoli, just steamed broccoli with some garlic and I'm good to go. But starting out, it's not always so easy. And as your taste buds are acclimating, it's really helpful to have the flavors, the barbecues and the barbecue sauces and the mushroom gravies and things that also really perk up the vegetables or the potatoes or even sometimes, maybe not these two, but some of the lentil noodles in Carole's. In other things that we've done, you can find a marinara sauce that we've done online or some other sauces. So when you get the recipes, you can see links to other sauces as well. So
I also want to say one thing, Wendy, really, that I was thinking about all week when I was making sauces and thinking about, is that, when you make a dressing and then you put a piece of lettuce in the dressing and then you taste it, because the dressing itself tastes strong. And then you put the lettuce in and then you taste it, and then that's the flavor you're looking for, the lettuce with the dressing. The sauce is very similar. Sometimes the sauce might taste strong when you've made it, but you have to consider when the mushrooms are in it, or when it's going to go over a lot of different kinds of vegetables, or it's going to go over the tofu, or over some kind of rice noodles. You have to just consider what it's going to be like when it's all together. So like when we get to the very end, and I'm going to make this red curry sauce, it's spicy. But once it gets on the things, it's not as spicy as when you tasted it originally.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And this is super done, okay? And I'm just gonna put it on a plate right now, and we're gonna move to the next thing. But I just want to show you, again, it's just a small portion that we made, just a little bit. But again, what would you eat this with? This could be with rice, and I have thrown kale into this with these mushrooms, and that has been my meal with some brown rice, okay? But right now we're just having the barbecue mushrooms. And you see how the sauce has definitely thickened up, right? It's not as runny as it appears to be when it's in the blender. I'm just going to pile it on. And like I said, it is the most, I love roasting potatoes and putting this on top of potatoes. And it's really good on white beans. Okay? So we're going to go to the next one because we talked about this one a lot. And the next one is something that, I'm just going to move that over here. And the next one is It's called Liquid Gold, and I love the title. It caught my eye because it's called Liquid Gold, and I do love the Minimalist Baker. It's a really good website, and she, I think, has a whole collection of like 30 kinds of sauces. But a while ago, this caught my eye. It's very similar to what another sauce that I make for a cauliflower, but this one is apparently taken from a restaurant in Seattle, and she kind of figured out how to rebuild something that she really loved the taste of. So we're going to get the container, another container. Like I said, I have many containers for the little blender called the NutriBullet, and we're going to just start to add the things we need, okay? So we need a half a cup of chickpeas, and I absolutely love the idea of, and I need a half a cup, and I'm not sure where half a cup is. So let me just see. Oh, here we can just, I think I'm using my 2 half cups already. They're in action. So I'm just going to get a 1/4 cup here. But I love that she has chickpeas hidden in this recipe. Why? Because it's fiber and it's full of protein, both. So it packs a punch, okay? And when you are tasting this recipe, you don't even know that there are chickpeas inside. So we need to have a half a cup, and I made these earlier a couple of days ago, actually. This is the end of my chickpeas, and you could definitely open a can and use a half a cup out of the can. You want to rinse them if you are using the canned ones. I just drained the liquid just now, and you get the half a cup, right? And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the other ingredients. So we need 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast. And I meant to show you because I know a lot of you ask, like, what is the nutritional yeast? It's not to be mixed up with baker's yeast. It's nutritional yeast. When I first started using it, Wendy introduced me to Dr. Furman's nutritional yeast, which you could buy directly online, whether it's Amazon or his site direct. Go right, and I used that for a very long time because it was clean and very pure. But I did find another brand that I very much like, and it's by Sari, S-A-R-I. This is it. Just I'll show it to you. It's kind of hard to see, but S-A-R-I, Sari Foods. It's nutritional yeast. And it's gluten-free, non-GMO, dairy-free, no MSG, vegan, and there's no synthetics. So I really like it. It's also a very good, clean, nutritional yeast. So we're putting 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast. I have 2 cloves of garlic. I don't really need to mince them. They're just going to go right in there easily enough. And then we need to measure out, let's measure out the right things in the right order. So we need 1 tablespoon of lemon or lime juice. So we're going to get, I have lime juice because I have a bunch of limes, so I just squeezed a bunch of limes. So I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of lime juice. And then it says we need 1 tablespoon of tahini, or we need 1 tablespoon of cashew butter. So I'm going to use, somewhere I have on the counter here, I have a brand new jar of tahini. So I'm going to open it up. And I'm always reminding everyone that when you use tahini, look at, I still have the plastic on it. You always want to give it a really good stir because it has a way of separating. And I try to look for the tahini that is organic and if possible. And like I said, you want to give it a really good stir. This one is a great one that I like. What is its brand? Organic tahini, it says. What is the brand? It's Baron, B-A-R-O-N, Baron. And it is super nice. It's a runny tahini, and I love this particular brand. And when I used to live in New York, I preferred to just buy it at the cola stands. Now, if you don't have tahini and you don't have cashew butter, I'm sure you could use a nut butter, but a nut butter meaning if you needed to use a peanut butter or an almond butter, but it's going to be much stronger and different tasting. And I think that she suggests the tahini or the cashew butter because it's more neutral, and I think it's good to have tahini anyway. I use it all the time.
Non-synthetic.
So what's non-synthetic, Wendy?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I wasn't um, muted. It's the folic acid. I was just thinking about the Furman, and I think your brand also, but the Furman one is about making sure that the nutritional yeast has non-synthetic
Yes,
folic acid. I think that's correct for yours as
it
well.
says very prominently non-synthetic right here in the
Yes,
middle.
exactly. And I just wanted to verify it. Sorry, I didn't realize my microphone was on. But that for the audience, that's one of the things when you're looking for nutritional yeast, you do want to make sure that it doesn't have synthetic folic acid. The
And
card.
I do know in a lot of places you can buy it in the bin in bulk, and usually when it's in a bin, it has a paragraph, so you can read what's actually in it. You
Yes.
know? So
Yep.
I just remember learning that from you, Wendy, when I started using it, that we wanted that very clean kind of nutritional yeast. It wasn't something that I used before in my previous cooking days.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so I got the tahini, I got the lime juice. Now we're going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric. We're going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of curry powder, and we're going to put a little bit of cumin. And in the recipe, she says if you don't want the cumin, you don't have to put the cumin, but oh my God, I can't imagine me using something without cumin. That just seems like not possible. And then it says that we need a dash of cayenne, okay? Now, I honestly would wait to put the cayenne. I left the cayenne off my measurements because it really depends on what kind of curry you're putting in, how flavorful and how spicy it is. So I almost would wait a little bit on putting the cayenne in, and then it says 2 teaspoons of maple syrup, but what I like doing is just taking, I realized that the dates work perfect as a replacement for the maple syrup. So I put 1.5 dates. I have these dates just sitting in a little water because my medjool dates were kind of hard, and I wanted them to kind of disintegrate. And I just want to remind you that this is sugary water, so I try not to throw this out. So if you wanted it to be sweeter and you wanted to use a little bit to thin it out, this is the water you would use, right? But I'll just use 2. Last time I used 1.5 and it was perfect. And then you need 1/3 cup of water, okay? And I'm gonna get I've lost my measuring cup once again. Here it is. If it's any closer to you, it's gonna just jump right out at you. Okay, and we need 1/3 cup. And I realize there are a few floating mushrooms. And I just need 1/3 cup. And it's always good to just kind of, now, she recommends a 1/3 cup, but I remember making this and it needed a little more. So I'm putting a teeny bit of water in there from the date that I was, because I don't want to throw this out. In fact, I'm going to put it all in there because I don't want to waste it, and it's just better for it to go in there right this very minute. Now we're going to get the blender card, and I realized I didn't wash it from the barbecue sauce. But we're gonna blend all this up and then it's done. It's like so fast. And then this sauce can last at least 5 days in your refrigerator, probably more. Mine went really fast the first time I made it. And I'm making the full recipe, okay? I didn't half it or quarter it or anything. And I just want to say that I sometimes half things and quarter things because I'm just one person. And how much sauce could one eat? So I'm gonna blend this for a minute. And it's just skimming. Now, because you're using a date, and if you use maple syrup, it's fine, but if you use a date, you actually want to make sure that that date is all broken down. That is one of the reasons why I had it soaking in a little bit of water. Now, this will be delicious on black beans. I mean, if I had black beans, that's exactly what I'd be serving it on. But it's also, it'd be great on black rice ramen. Oh my God, it is so yummy already. Now, at this moment, it's not too spicy. The curry that I have is very balanced. It's not hot. It's not medium. It's a pretty mild curry. So I'm going to give it just a little teeny bit of cayenne. And I'll know that when I'm putting the dish together eventually, and if I want it to be a little stronger, right? If I want it to be a little stronger, that I could add a little more cayenne. And I'm not going to bother to blend it back up. I'm just going to mix this up. And then we're going to just pour this in a jar. I'm going to get a lovely little jar. Will this all fit? I think it will. It might be to the top. Let's just see what happens. And that is the liquid gold sauce. Now, I think this would not only on hot vegetables or tofu or sweet potatoes, all of this would be good on all those things. But I think you could also thin this out if you wanted, maybe with a little coconut milk if you desired, or you could just thin it out with a little more liquid, the chickpea water. Any kind of liquid, right? Any kind of liquid. And make a dressing for a salad. Make a nice salad. I think that would be a great idea. But we're talking about sauces today, and sauces are usually a little thicker. They're not dressings, but it's close. And of course, I'm at the top here, and look how good that looks. It's liquid gold.
It is liquid gold. It's so colorful, and curry may be the only thing I like better than mushrooms. But it really does look absolutely fantastic and a different kind of curry dressing. So it looks great. We have 2 questions, Carole. Are you game or are you?
Yeah, I'm game. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out where this little last bit is going to go. I'm just going to put it on this plate.
Sweet. I do love the color. It's going to brighten just.
I like saying that we have liquid gold. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I made a liquid gold sauce. You know, I love that.
I love it too. Question. If you save the aquafaba from the canned chickpeas, how long can you keep it?
I would say probably 5 days in the refrigerator. And you'll know that it's going off because it will start to get bubbly. And you'll just put your nose in it and smell it and you'll know it's off. Yeah. If you're someone like me who is obsessively saving things, you can put it in an ice cube tray and freeze it. You could put it in you could freeze it. You can freeze it and it's just fine if you don't want to throw it away. But usually I have, because I go through so many chickpeas, I'm always having that juice and I get backed up and it can spoil.
Good answer. And do you ever substitute garlic cloves with minced garlic in a jar?
Say that. Oh, you mean like someone's already minced the garlic?
Yeah, you know, like you can walk into one of the stores and just buy a jar of minced garlic.
Yes.
You never save yourself the time of chopping garlic and you use the.
Sometimes, you know what the best way to do that is in the blend, not so much the blender, but in the bowl of the food processor. Sometimes I just grind up a bunch of garlic and then I put it into a jar and put it in the refrigerator. I just want to point out that that's often, not always, but often the stuff in the store is soaking in oil. So just be careful. I do know at one time Trader Joe's was packing it in a little freezer section of garlic, but I don't know. I haven't been to Trader Joe's in a while.
Right. The other thing is when you put the pre-minced garlic in a little jar and cover it, do you put any fluid in it?
No, I don't, because I just cover it really tightly in the jar and I think it's good enough. Yes. Why? Because I cook it and use it. I'm not leaving it in the fridge for weeks.
Right.
I'm using it within days. Yeah. Right. But it is certainly a fast way of dealing with garlic, and it's like batch cooking, right? If you want to just save some time for yourself, blend a bunch of it in the machine and then you have it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is there any other questions about the?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, so we have a theme going here. We're kind of in the Asian world a little bit. We left the little bit of liquid gold and we're moving on to a peanut sauce. Now, I have made a peanut sauce before, back in 2020. I definitely made a peanut sauce, but I made it very runny, and it was mainly for dipping Vietnamese rolls into, you know, the sauce, the dipping sauce, the peanut sauce. And so I made this recipe so that it's actually a little thicker than normal, right? And this would be delicious, Desiree, on tofu. So I'm going to get a jar here. We actually maybe could make it in the small one again. You see, the NutriBullet comes with lots of different kinds of containers, so it means I don't have to keep washing in between. So let's move on to this recipe. It is as simple also as the liquid gold, and we're going to start with a half a cup, and I need to get a spatula. Just that I have to clean for sure, and I need to clean the bottom of the NutriBullet, the blender part. But we are going to use peanut butter. And what I was trying to say about peanut butter is that you want to just buy peanut butter. That is just peanuts. No salt added, no sugar added, no oils added, just peanuts. And there are plenty of different brands. And I finally found a brand locally here that I like. It's called Field Day. I don't know. I've never seen the brand when I lived in New York, but there's brands of peanut butter that just say ingredients, peanuts. That's all you want. So this is kind of a runny one, and I like that actually. You could use crunchy peanut butter. This particular one is smooth. If you are someone, I used to love to buy the peanut butter when you grind it yourself and it's 100% natural. But I find that for this recipe, the runnier kind is actually better. If you use the kind that you grind yourself, it's a little thicker paste, and you might need to add more liquid to the sauce to make it the right consistency. So 1/2 cup of peanut butter. We need 1 to 2 tablespoons of low sodium tamari. I use this brand here. This is Sanjay. Oops, I have to turn it the right way. Sanjay. And it's tamari. You could use coconut aminos if you want, but that is going to be 2 tablespoons of soy. You can use a sweetener of your choice. You could use maple syrup. I actually left this out. It's upside down. It's been so cold in here, but it's organic date syrup, and it's just dates. You could use a squirt or 2 of this, any sweetener that you want, but I actually soaked 2 dates again, 2 medjool dates. I took their pits out, and here's their water. And like I said, their water is very sweet, and I never throw that out. And then you need about 1 inch of peeled fresh ginger. Okay, this is the ginger, and I peeled it with the back of a spoon, and I end up with 1 inch of ginger. And I'm going to just cut this up so it's not a full knob of ginger, but you don't have to grate it. You don't have to do anything because it's going to get blended, and you want to be fast with your sauce. You don't want to have to do so much work. And then, and you need 2 cloves of garlic. Where did my garlic go? I guess I have to get my garlic. Now I'm in the middle of this garlic, and sometimes it gets frustrating because you're down to the little tiny ones inside. But let's just get this garlic in. It says you need 2 cloves of garlic. And then we need to have red pepper flakes, and I suggested 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon. The red pepper flakes are kind of up to you. I go the full board, meaning that I use all 1/2 teaspoon. You'll see that I even use a little sriracha eventually, but here's the red pepper flakes, and I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, so big 1/2 teaspoon. That's going in there. And then we need the ginger. We did that. And we need 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar. We talked earlier about the rice wine vinegar. I'm just going to use not the seasoned, but the regular. When we need 1 tablespoon. And let me just get the 1 tablespoon out. Okay, and that's 1 tablespoon. And then we need 1 tablespoon of lime juice. And I have the juice, and I tried not to get rid of it. It's here, right here. 1 tablespoon. And you can never go overboard with the lime juice, honestly, because that makes it so delicious. And that's everything except we need 1/3 cup to 1/2 cup of water. So I actually know that you almost need a 1/2 cup of water. I say 1/3 to start with because I don't know what the brand of peanut butter you're using. So if your peanut butter is on the thick end, you're going to need a little more water. But I just know that I need, with this particular peanut butter, a 1/2 cup. So I went ahead and used a 1/2. And then we're just going to put this lid on. Okay, and we're going to put this on the blender. And just for a minute, make noise. If I can make noise. Sometimes I have problems. Okay, so that's good. That's looks like not all of it's mixed totally, but I'm gonna just take this off and get this in the jar. But I'm gonna taste it first because this is a sauce that I actually like a little bit spicy, and it's up to you how much spice is in there. What can you do to make it more spicy? You can add more red chili flakes. If you want, you could add some kind of jalapeno. But it's very good. I love adding a sriracha sauce. Now, I used to make my own sriracha and just have it in the refrigerator. And sometimes it would go off a little bit because I didn't use sriracha very often. So locally here, I found a brand and I put the link to the brand inside the recipe. And it's called Yellow Bird Sriracha. They make a lot of different kinds. This particular one is organic lime, garlic, and date blend. So I really like that they've sweetened it because you always need to sweeten the sriracha a little bit because it has also hot peppers in it, right? So this does have a little bit of, I'll read the ingredients. It has red jalapeno peppers, distilled vinegar, organic garlic, organic dates, organic raisins, and organic tangerine juice, and concentrate, and organic lime juice, and salt. So it has a little bit of salt, but because I use so little bit of it, I don't really worry about it, and I love putting a big squeeze in there, and I love spicing it up. So that is this sauce. I stir in that sriracha because I like it hot. And again, this would be great as it could go on a coleslaw, cabbage, red and green cabbage, and onions, and you make a nice peanutty coleslaw. You can put it just like Desiree said with the earlier tofu and barbecue. This is peanut sauce is delicious with the tofu and any kind of vegetables. So that is our peanut sauce. Any questions, Wendy, on that? No, I don't see you. No questions? Maybe you're reading. I know you have to read. So I'll just wait. I don't hear you. So I'm gonna, if you pipe in, just let me know and I'll move on. So I just have these extra chili flakes here and I just want to taste it again. I'm gonna put a little bit more chili flakes because I like that. Okay, so that's that. We need to make one more sauce and then we're gonna try to wrap things up. Let me just move this over a little bit. Maybe I've frozen, I'm not sure, but I lost Wendy somehow. Not sure, that's okay. I'm gonna move on and we are going to make our last sauce. And our last sauce is something that I also found on the internet and it caught my eye. And its ingredient is also based on a nut. It's a cashew curry. And I love that it's a cashew curry because often you find cashews in curry anyway. And I love this one because it's really fast and easy to make. So let's just get that made and then I'm gonna try to put together a little dish for you so you can see how to use that. I'm going to move these things. Eventually you'll see everything presented finally. So
Yeah.
I want
Just want to let you know I'm back. There was an issue I had on my screen, and also I was muted, so I couldn't answer your question. But
Oh, no worries. I just thought for some reason, we do have technical issues sometimes, and I disappear. So I'm just moving on, so but were there any things that needed to be asked?
there was one that said, one question, can you freeze the peanut sauce?
Yes, you could definitely freeze the peanut sauce, for sure.
That's it.
And I don't know how to freeze it because it doesn't last very long in my house. This is a sauce that, like, I'm not kidding you, I put on everything. And I also use it as a little bit of a dip for vegetables, like crudité, it's really good. So I'm going to move on. We're talking about the cashew curry. And I'm going to put a half a cup of soaked cashews that I soaked in water. Overnight I soaked them. But if ever you are wanting to make something really fast and you haven't soaked your cashews, just boil some hot water and pour them over the cashews, and the cashews will get really soft really fast. The reason you want them soft is because they're going to get creamier that way. So we need 1/2 cup of raw cashews. And then this ingredient is something that is also in a jar, I want to let you know. And we need 1.5 tablespoons of red curry paste. And there are many brands of red curry paste, but this one I have found to be the nicest. It's and I also gave you a link for that right in the recipe. You'll see the brand. It's called Mekhala, Mekhala, and it's organic red curry paste. I'm not going to read all the ingredients. It promptly says on the front, no gluten, no added sugar, no nuts, no shrimp or fish. So you do want to look for something that's vegan when you're buying this. And it does have a little bit of salt in it, but it has no added sugars. So it does call for 1.5 tablespoons. And I have a measuring spoon that is 1.5 tablespoons. Now, when I made this the very first time, I was just like, wow, that is really, really spicy. And I think that too, just like your peanut sauce that I mentioned, depends a little bit on the consistency with what kind of peanut butter. I think this sauce will depend on what red type curry paste. So I'm not going to fill this spoon entirely, this 1.5 tablespoons. I'm just going to make it a little shy because it was very strong but very good. But some of you might not want very spicy. So know that you can control the heat by how much of that you put in there. And then it says 1 tablespoon of coconut aminos. So I also linked a good brand so that you could see a good brand in the recipe. And then we need 2 tablespoons of lime juice. I think I'm just going to have just enough lime juice. Just barely enough. Just barely enough. I should have another lime around here, but that's okay. And then we need 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. So we're using the dry ginger, not the fresh ginger like we used in the peanut sauce. And then we need 1/4 cup of water. So all these spices are going in here. And let's just get this. And then we need to measure out 1/4 cup of water. Okay, and we're going to get that in there. And we're going to rinse the blender part. See, even if you have a lot of different kinds of containers for the NutriBullet, you still need the bottom base, which has the blade. So there is some washing that's entailed. And all of this is going to get blended. Now, this sauce would be, I think it's very good just on its own. But if you ever wanted to add some coconut flakes or you wanted to add some coconut cream to it, of course it's going to become much richer. I think it's already rich with the cashews, so I don't think you need to do that. But let's just get this blended really quickly. think we're done there. Let's just see what this is. And I'm going to move everything. This is almost the same color as the peanut sauce. I just want you to know. Oh my God. It is so yummy. I cannot tell you. It's like going to the Thai restaurant and you never left your house. And I love doing that because sometimes you want to bring the restaurant home and you want to be able to control and you know exactly what's in your food. And the food's not going to be cooked in a lot of oil and a lot of greasy things. And this is going to be a very clean Thai meal for you. So we don't have any rice noodles, but we are going to get the saute pan. I'm just going to get a saute pan. And I'm just going to show you very quickly how to put this together, and then we'll wrap it up, Wendy. So while this pan is getting hot, I'm going to take out I'm going to get a jar, just get the sauce out, and I'm just going to quickly cook up a little vegetable dinner. So you see how quick it is. But do you have any questions?
We're all set on questions. I love that you're going to show how to actually use the sauces. What fun. Are you just putting it over vegetables?
I am just going to put it over vegetables. You know, I eat tofu during the week so many times, different ways. And of course, tofu is probably the best thing for this. Tofu and vegetables all together, right? Everything together. Yeah. But I'm just going to show you how to cook it with a bunch of vegetables, really how I would do it. And you can ad lib yourself. I just took vegetables out of the fridge that I have. You could use snow peas. I know those are in season right now. I have no snow peas yet. Well, I had snow peas a week or two ago, but I don't know. They're not in the store right now. And that is the sauce. It's in a really big jar. And I'm going to pour some of the sauce right this minute into the pan here. And what I usually like doing when I clean a jar and I haven't gotten it all out, is I put a little bit of water, right? And then I swirl everything around and I try to get it all out like this. I shake it a little bit. And then and of course the sauce is going to get a little thick when you cook it anyway. And that way this is all clean. Okay, so that sauce is now in the, and I have a messy counter, messy everything. Let me just remove some of these things. I want to be able to show you everything. And I'm just going to get rid of this for a second. I'm trying to do a little quick cleanup here for you. And we have the peanut sauce, the red sauce, the golden curry sauce. And move all this. I'm just moving this. Now, I thought it'd be nice to put some eggplant in this. I had an eggplant in the refrigerator and I peeled the eggplant and then I cut it into big cubes and then I squeezed an orange over the top. Again, no oil on this eggplant. And then I roasted it in the oven at 400 degrees until it became brown like this. So in my curry, I want to have eggplant, right? I'll put the rest of this away for another time that I'm making dinner. I mean, one could make it all at one time. And I'm just going to get all the things. Just a second. Remember that we have, so I have one carrot here. I have some green beans that I have in the fridge. I have some of these red peppers. And remember I told you we had a little bit of cauliflower left, right? So I'm going to put a little cauliflower in this dish. And I've washed this very large carrot here. Let's get these green beans in because it's going to take a little while for those to cook. I'm going to just cut them. I trimmed them already. And I'm just going to cut them in half so that they're more of a bite size. That's going in there too. And then I had these red peppers, the package that comes with all the different colored red peppers. And a few of the ones that I have were starting to, this was the end of the bag. So I'm going to just not worry about how I'm cutting them. I'm just going to cut them into big pieces. They're going in there now too. They're almost shriveling up, to tell you the truth. You just don't see them very closely, but you could cut them into rings. You could do whatever, however you want. But so far we have eggplant, and I took out this carrot. I thought carrot would be good, or sweet potato, doesn't matter. And I do want to get some kind of tool here. just gonna dry this to start. So I'm starting to coat this, right? And I see that it's starting to stick in this pan just a little bit. So I'm gonna add a little broth because I have it. And I'm just gonna add a little teeny broth. Just a little bit. Just to get things moving. Again, you could add a little curry sauce if you wanted. I have the eggplant in there. You could add a cubed sweet potato. It will take too long for me to cook the sweet potato right now, but I want to cut the carrot. Okay, I've washed this carrot, cleaned it, scrubbed it, and I'm just going to, I don't know, cut it at an angle. Okay, just going to cut it at an angle like that into big pieces, and that's going to go in there too. Okay, and that's, look at already, that's delicious. That means the sauce has been done in the refrigerator, and it means that I just went to the refrige and picked out whatever vegetables I had leftovers, and then that just has to cook for a few minutes. You could put more sauce on to make it however saucy you want, right? Let's just get rid of this. And I also have, let's get rid of all of this. I have so much stuff here. I had a little bit of scallion. I'm gonna just, it was also starting to spoil, so I kind of cleaned it up. There was another piece of scallion here. Just gonna get that, and let's get rid of all these things because I want to start to show you everything. And just, I think the scallion would be good just as a way to top it off. Again, it's going to be delicious mostly on rice or rice noodles. You could serve quinoa. You could put the tofu. I mean, there's just endless ideas. I'm going to get the bowl. And I don't like to drown things in sauce. I like the sauce just to be covering the vegetables. Again, everything has been cooked in here except the carrots. But I'm just going to plate it for you so you can see what it looks like. And that would be your red curry, cashew red curry with vegetables. And then I'm going to put these scallions. You could put cilantro. I have some cilantro too to make it more flavorful. But that is the onions going on top. And then let's just get that. Let's move this. Move these onions. I have a mess going on here. Let's just move this over here. And we are going to get the beautiful, beautiful mashed potatoes that are here. And if you were to cut this loaf, it was hot when we started this class, but I'm going to just show you that I think it can cut now. You don't want to, the loaf is always better if you make these loaves, I want to tell you, they're always better tomorrow. You want to make it a day ahead of time because they improve with flavor and they also cut better. But this loaf, let me just get a proper plate, would just go on here, right? You would put your loaf in some of your vegetables. I'm just showing you on a small plate. And then you would pour and you would put your mashed potatoes. Here, I'm just going to grab a bunch of mashed potatoes on here, right? Just a bunch. And then I'm going to put the sauce right on here, right? So you have mashed potatoes, loaf, and you would have lots of broccoli or whatever vegetable you want next to it. And you would have several pieces of loaf. But then all of this just goes together perfectly. And that's pretty much it, Wendy. I mean, we did a lot in 1 hour's time.
It looks beautiful. Carole, can you hold up the, yes, exactly, the vegetables? That looks as good as anything you'd see in a Thai restaurant.
Oh, and I never tasted it, but it's going to be delicious.
It looks so good. And I love the idea of the sauces over the loaf, which is such a good, hearty. It's such a hearty meal.
Oh, and I want to point out that the barbecue sauce would also be delicious on the loaf.
Yes, of course. And somebody in the chat mentioned that all three of those sauces would be great, like on a chickpea cutlet, which is not all that dissimilar to the loaf that you made, and even lentil loaves, things like that.
Or burgers, right? Like you could have the burgers. You could put these mushrooms on top of a black bean burger.
Exactly.
Like heaven, right?
Yeah. So delicious. You did have a question about what was in your broth, and I did answer it to say that you make your broth from scratch and it's a vegetable broth. But anything you want to add, it's definitely not a real beef broth, which is what.
Definitely not a beef broth. I talk about it so much, Wendy, that I try not to continue to talk about it, but there are new people, so I have to acknowledge that. And it's usually made up of celery, tomatoes, onion ends. Today I actually put some mushrooms in. I keep all the ends when I'm cutting all week long, and they go into a Ziploc bag in the freezer. And when that Ziploc bag is, when I'm ready to cook, I just cook it. There is, I don't know the date, so I apologize, but you could go in to the Plant Powered Metro New York YouTube channel and go to my playlist and find it's just broth. I teach a 3-minute, a bite-sized tip on how to make broth, and I don't know the date offhand, but you could watch it or just Google making vegetable broth. And it's something that all of you can make easily because you have the vegetables and the trimmings, and it's easy.
Great. And you did have a question about the nut loaf, but I just said that you had pre-made the nut loaf to simply show the broth. And you can, anyone who's asking for recipes, Plant Powered Metro definitely has 3 years now, 3 years, Carole, of our YouTube shows, and there's a lot of recipes on there, but you can also use Google, our trusted friend Google, and maybe even Chat GBT, and find vegan, whole food, plant-based, no salt, no oil, no sugar recipes, and you can probably find a nut loaf on there, if not in our own.
And or a bean loaf, because some people don't want to have the nut loaf.
Right. Lentil loaf is very popular.
Yes, and I make this usually around Thanksgiving, or because most of the year I eat burgers. But once in a while I make the loaf because it's just so pretty. And we did make it, Wendy, in November of 2020, a loaf. Yes. So if someone were to go back and look, I think it's might be with the mashed potatoes on November 8th, 2020. So
very good. Yep. Someone asked about the mashed potatoes. You see that we, Jim, who's behind the scenes, put the link to the video in the chat, but it was May 8th, 2020. So
no, November 8th, right?
I'm sorry, November 8th for the loaf, and for the gravy, no, for the mashed potatoes too was November.
I think it's all in one. I think it was a Thanksgiving demo.
Very good. And I think Jim found it, and it's in the chat now for you too. Okay, well, that really wraps us up. I do have some announcements, but I'm aware it's 6:27 and we really do try to be finished on time. But Carole, brilliant show. Thank you. We could all use sauces, something to just make these dishes special. So moving along just to the announcements for Plant Powered Metro, again, highlights in the next few weeks. April 18th, we have this in-person event at the East Harlem Neighborhood Health Action Center. It's a 4-week series that's free, and we'll be teaching some of what Carole's recipes are here. Carole's also a Food for Life instructor, but we'll have a Food for Life instructor teaching about the power of food for new and expectant parents. And as we approach Women's Health Month in May, this is really a wonderful offering for to support moms before, during, and after pregnancy, and their partners and caregivers and their young children, or caregivers of young children, and of course the obstetric, there we go, obstetric health professionals as well, meaning the doulas, midwives, OB clinicians. So it should be a really important and really fun event. April 20th, we have a class that is being co-sponsored with the Marlene Meyerson JCC on the Upper West Side, and it's eating for skin health and anti-aging. And one of our very own, Dr. Jessica Krant, will be teaching about skin health and anti-aging tips. And then as I mentioned at the beginning, one of my favorite events, Earth Day, which is an in-person field trip to Dr. Weiss's Ethos Farm in New Jersey. And one of the things that makes Dr. Weiss's farm so unique is that it is a regenerative farm, and he has his medical offices right there on the farm. He's one of the only, there are a few now, but he's one of the first I'd heard of a medical plant-based doctor, but medical doctor, um, who's also a farmer, botanist and farmer. So big event. Please check it out on the website. And finally, again, for those in New York, we have a spring social at Caravan of Dreams, which is a restaurant downtown, on April 25th. So come out, please join us live in community or keep joining us online. One of our missions is really building a movement and building a community, being part of the movement and building a community of people who are eating this way. Our next demo with Carole is on May 21st, same time, same channels. And you can reach Carole at the Veggie Vanguard on Instagram. You can see her pictures of things sometimes that she's making during the week. You can also connect with us on Instagram or on Facebook at Plant Powered Metro New York, and of course online through our website. And a big warm thank you always, always, always to our co-host and producer, Jim Spellos. Couldn't do without Jim, and also Alan Smithy for his contributions behind the scenes. So I think that's everything for today. Oh, if anyone would like to make a donation, I do say this at the end of every show. Please go, please donate if you believe in what we're doing. We have events actually in many of the boroughs of New York City, out in Long Island, and we're moving more and more now into New Jersey. Most of these events are free, and they're really being sponsored by the people who give generously. On the other hand, if it's not in your budget, we love having you here, and please show up, because it's just great having all of you asking your questions and allowing us to entertain, I hope, and be of service in this community. Okay, that's it. Carole, any last words?
No, I'm really good, and everything's in front of us, and it looks awesome. And I think we could have had this show for a whole day. There's so much. We just touched on the handful of sauces.
You're so right. In fact, someone in the chat is suggesting a Chef Carole retreat, possibly in Manhattan. So that will get that idea, which was a good one, is
I love that.
Moved up the ladder to the people who make those decisions. So thank you, everyone, for coming. It's always a pleasure having you, and we will see you next month.
Thank you very much.